Hey, my friends, it's Matt. This is the 10 Minute Bible Hour podcast. And with any luck, as you are hearing my voice right now, I am far, far away from the internet and my phone, and most of all, Twitter. And I am hanging out with my favorite human that I ever met, ever, because my wife and I are taking an anniversary trip together because we are in love. And I think it's going to be magnificent. And so what we're going to do this week is take an old talk that I did on the book of Judges, like a summary of the whole book of Judges. And I'm going to have my buddy Jeff cut it up into 5 pieces. And that actually sounds like something from the book of Judges. The Levite and his concubine, that all makes sense later on after you listen to this. Now I'm committed to that metaphor. We're going to cut it up into 5 pieces, and that'll be the next 5 days of our conversation here. And then we'll get back at it with Matthew 26 and this situation with the anointing of Jesus at Bethany, kind of a little lull in between the craziness of the storm of the events leading up to his arrest and trial and execution. I just wanted to mention a couple things, though, real quick on the front end before we tear into this whole Judges thing for 5 days. And mostly, I guess what I just wanted to communicate is how much I enjoy doing this and how much I appreciate you for making it so that I can do this. And I don't just mean the people who support the program. I mean all of you, by the fact that you exist and you want to have a conversation about the Bible that sounds like this. And I guess I especially mean all of you who disagree with me so much about so many things, but you're like our ancestors used to be, where they weren't freaked out about that. And it was like, well, you know, people think different things, and yeah, life happens, and we're all kind of on a journey, and you just compare notes and you have a laugh about it. And you think about important stuff, and who knows where we'll all land. We'll just hang out and think together and enjoy each other's company along the way. You got that kind of vibe to you, and that makes us kindred spirits. I like you by merit of the fact that you're here, by merit of the fact that a small percentage of you go like above and beyond and fund this thing, by merit of the fact that every time we interact with words or even in person, you've just been cool. And I didn't know what I was going to get 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago now, when I decided to do this. I'd been a pastor for a long time. Some of you know that, some of you don't. I never wanted to be a pastor. I didn't really mean to do that. It's just personal tragedy, and my family put me in a place where I needed to help out my dad, who was trying to keep things together while he was working at a church after losing his baby boy. And so I didn't really know what I was doing, but I filled in as a young man and tried to help out, and not sure how much I actually did. And then one thing led to another. I ended up going back to school for this stuff and just finding that, like, I don't know, I just really, really like the Bible. I think it's hyper interesting, and it scratches so many itches for me. And I also really like people. And I guess if that's the kind of stuff that you're into, sometimes you might end up being a pastor. And that was the deal for me. And I had a good run. It was great at the beginning. It was great in the middle. It was great when I decided to wrap it up. It wrapped up on great terms. It was a cool job. And you're in people's lives in like the most personal moments, and the tragedies and the beautiful stuff and the beginnings and the endings. And it's a privilege. It's a cool line of work. But one of the things I came to quickly miss after I got done with this, and what is that now, the summer of 2019, is the rhythm of being around the Bible all week. I'm like, all right, passage, it's you and me this week. Let's go. And all your spare thoughts are about that passage. And you go in, you stand in the shower, and you're like, I'm thinking about that Bible passage. And you go out and play some disc golf, and I'm thinking about that Bible passage. You go hunt some trout up in the mountains, I'm thinking about that Bible passage. Have a conversation with friends who think about the same stuff. We're thinking about that Bible passage. And then Sunday, it's like, aha, and now I've given birth to this thing that I've been nurturing all week long. And it was a beautiful rhythm, but also there are constraints to that because of the time, the once a week nature of it, the fact that it needs to fit cohesively into a worship service on Sunday morning, and the fact that you're talking to a room full of people you know super, super well for all the reasons I mentioned a minute ago. There's like a product that has to come out of a sermon each week, and it is make it make sense to this room of people. Think about what this room of people is grappling with and help them figure out how this text affects what they do, how they think, how they prioritize, what this week looks like for them even. And that's a cool thing. And that's a meaningful part of the role of a pastor. But when I moved away from that role, I still super wanted to be around the Bible. But after a couple months, I was like, you know what? I don't really have those constraints anymore. I could just pick a book of the Bible, preferably one that has Jesus, the main character of the religion, in it, and I could just work through that with whoever felt like it as slow as I wanted. I wouldn't really have to say anything or bring with me any necessary set of assumptions. I could just do this for myself. And because it's the internet, not church, I don't really need to distill these passages down into the life lessons and the application side of things. I can just let that go and let that be something that everybody gets somewhere else. That would be liberating. I'm going to try it. And so I decided to do this 10-minute Bible Hour podcast in the fall of 2019. And I was hoping a few people would show up and it could just be a little journey that we could go on together with sense of humor and low pressure, and just let the pacing be whatever the pacing is. And I was just stunned by how many of you there were who would be up for this kind of thing. I just didn't imagine that you'd turn out the way you did. And I didn't imagine that it would keep growing the way it has. This is the biggest thing that I'm involved with and that I do, just in terms of number of people who participate, by quite a bit. And I say it a lot. It's humbling. It's a very meaningful thing that so many of you are willing to take a part of your day 5 days a week and make this part of the rhythm. And we haven't even met, but I'm familiar with Christianity. I get those dance steps pretty well. I've been around it my whole life. I wanted to do a thing that was more about the Bible than being about Christianity. Not that I'm mad at Christianity or anything. I just wanted it to be about the story and the main character of the story. And then, well, I guess everybody just does whatever everybody needs to do with it. And I thought it might be a cool experience to work through the Bible, maybe many, many books of the Bible, even with those kind of ground rules. And it's been awesome for me. So thanks a ton for doing this and for going on the journey. And with all of that said, I guess I got a couple housekeeping things that I wanted to mention that seem better placed here than anywhere else. First of all, some of you might know this, but I'll go ahead and just spell it out. We are going to keep doing books of the Bible. And the next one, barring some radical unforeseen change, is going to be the Book of Esther. I've been working on it. I'm excited because it takes us to an entirely different era with a different empire, a different government, different pressures, different technology, different culture. And it's also the book of the Bible that doesn't mention God. Why? Why would somebody write a book that's for the Bible and you don't mention the main character of everything, of all of existence? And I think it's going to be fun to pull on that thread and try to figure out what's going on there together. I also think there's going to be some pretty funny stuff to laugh about in that one. Housekeeping thing number 2. Some of you have been asking me where the weeks like the one that's about to happen go. Why do those go away? I'm saying this poorly. What I mean is, in the past, when I've taken old sermons and stuff and cut them up and taken a week to do that, we take them down after a given period of time. And the reason for that is that we want to keep the back catalog streamlined for people who are binging and hustling through it to catch up and to get the whole Matthew experience all at once. But then those old sermons just go away to Nowhereville. And several of you have asked me where they go and what it would look like to get your mitts on them. I've been thinking about that a little bit, and I decided, all right, well, I think it's time to make a bit of a change with how we do the Patreon thing, the support thing that we do on this channel. Patreon.com/the TMBH podcast. Percentage of you have decided to jump in and support a podcast that you could have for free. You don't really get anything. Every now and then I send out a pin or a sticker or a Christmas card or something, but I mean, there's no deal. It's just a thing that some people do, and it's not even a tax write-off because I suppose in the most technical sense, I have this set up as a business because I don't know, I'm trying to just read the room, and I know there are a lot of people I would like to talk with about the Bible who don't like that churches have nonprofit status, and I just figured, oh, okay, well, I'll just pay taxes on my thing, and I won't really have like a board or anything. It'll just continue to be like a guy in his basement. And so that's why it's set up the way it is. So people are kicking in on this, and it's just to make it go. I mean, this show exists because some of you do that. And I got to thinking, well, as a way to say thank you to folks who are supporting the program at any level, I'm going to start taking some of those old sermons that we've gone through in the past, maybe even some that we've never published before, and posting one of those every month, along with maybe some of the music that Jeff has made over the years, you can use for a ringtone or just to listen to because they're that good. And I've talked before about doing like bonus content, and yeah, maybe we'll do this or that bonus podcast stuff. But every time I record a bonus episode, I'm like, I want to give it to everybody. So then I just end up publishing it on a Saturday. So this seems like a way to do something for those of you who are supporting the program through patreon.com, to just be like, hey, thanks. It is appreciated. It's more than appreciated. It's why this thing exists. And so, yeah, when I get back from this little trip, I'm going to start punching up some stuff like that, including starting to post some of those old sermons that we've published here on the podcast on some of my off weeks in the past. I take those bye weeks, if you will, theoretically 4 times a year. We have it set up so that if you support the program on Patreon, you are charged by the week. Charged, that sounds all formal, but the way it works is you sign up, you're like, I'm going to do $5 a week to support the podcast. Well, it's super motivating for me. That's super encouraging. It keeps things rolling. And every Monday I go in there when I publish the Monday episode and I click a little box that says, charge the patrons for this week of podcast. And then a note gets made of that. And then at the end of the month, everybody's card gets charged. Patreon takes a pretty sizable fee for the service they provide. And then the rest, I pay Jeff with that, and it covers bills for the family, and that's awesome. But every now and then you get a month that has 5 Mondays in it. And on those 5th Mondays, 4 times a year, we just don't charge the patrons. And that way it keeps, what it's going to cost you every month predictable, and you don't get some weird outlier 5-week month kind of thing. And sometimes I take that week off. And so this is one of those weeks. We've got some other pretty interesting ideas cooking for things that we want to do on the support side, including another avenue for those of you who've expressed to me that you would like to support the program, but maybe not through Patreon. I'm working on a solution to that, but I don't have anything quite ready to tell you about there. And then I got another fun project that I'm working on that I'm excited to tell you about when it is ready to go as well. Look, that was a lot of stuff. I don't know. I've just wanted to touch base about what we're doing and why we're doing it and how much I appreciate you in a detailed way for quite a while now, and this seemed to be the opportunity to do it. The bottom line is thank you to all of you. I have the best job in the world. You don't make me feel weird pressure. And even though we might not talk or know each other in the traditional way of knowing each other, it still feels like we're connected on this thing together. And I love that we get to share in this journey. So I appreciate you. Thanks again to everybody who supports the program. As always, thanks again to everybody who does not. That's also cool. I'm going to let Jeff take and run with it for the next 5 days here, and I will catch up with you when I get back.